This is Art Is, a podcast for artists, where we talk about all things top of mind for emerging artists. I'm Isotta, and I'm an artist. I make sculpture, and I'm currently really interested in exploring how making sculpture with marble, a truly ancient material, can get us as humans in touch with deep geologic time. I'll be sharing more about my practice throughout this season, which is a new thing for me, because I started this podcast back in 2021 as a recent art school grad, grappling with starting my professional practice in the pandemic and feeling very lost and alone. Working on this pod helped me expand my horizons creatively and intellectually. So here we are, 3 years later, still making the show, but now with an amazing co-host.
And I'm Lauryn. I'm an artist and a career coach for creatives. I help artists and creatives master their mindset, align with their purpose, and make money doing work they love. Lately, I've been working on my acrylic and gouache cake paintings, and most interested in learning more about the intersection of emotional well-being and spirituality, especially as it relates to life as an artist.
Welcome back to Art Is Season 6. I'm so happy to be here with Lauryn. We are enjoying the start to spring and the warm weather, and we're just really excited to be chatting again with you today. So, Lauryn, what's up? How's it going?
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. I was just telling Isotta that I'm going to Coachella this weekend. Very excited about that. We were talking about some of the art there, which I've never been before, so I have no idea what to expect except for the pictures that I've seen. But I'm excited to be inspired by all the different art forms that are created there.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's actually a secret dream of mine to make sculpture for Coachella one day. One of my faves, Edoardo Tresoldi, if you're listening, big fan of your work. He made a beautiful, huge installation a few years ago of like a Baroque basilica from Rome that he recreated in his like signature style, which is like just metal mesh that's like formed to be like the shape of architecture, but it's enormous, but it's transparent because it's just made out of this metal mesh. And I didn't see it in person, obviously, but I have seen his work in Italy last summer at the sculpture park Artesella, which is incredible. But the piece at Coachella is incredible and such a cool concept to have a large installation like that with music and with so many people and having the change of light and seasons and stuff. Really cool.
Yeah. And it's as you were talking too, I was just imagining because I've been painting a lot lately. And I was like, wait, what if I made a sculpture for Coachella? Like just what are the possibilities? I've been really leaning into like the feelings of joy and awe and the juiciness of reality and being like, what else is possible? And for me, allowing things to come through to receive them, because for so long, I think I blocked certain things from my life because of the way that I grew up. And I thought that I was only allowed to receive like a certain amount of pleasure, a certain amount of beauty, a certain amount of like enjoyment in my life. And after recently finding out that I'm a Taurus rising, which is apparently I'm supposed to, my purpose on earth is to relax and enjoy and receive. And I'm like, okay, based off of that, like, how can I do that more? And even just that thought of like, okay, if I were to believe that this was my purpose, how would I create that? How would I show up to that belief? And how that's showing up for me right now is by painting. And I've had these, The past couple years as I've run my coaching business, I've also had an art practice, but it's been very just kind of figuring things out, playing around with things on my iPad. And like, I've been doing a lot of these cake paintings, and I just love cakes. I love sweets. I grew up with my mom cake decorating, and she would bake a lot and make all these really elaborate, interesting, beautiful cakes. And so I've always just been drawn to, I love pastel colors. And so I'm like, okay, what would be the easiest way for me to just make art is these cakes that I've been creating. And so as you were talking about Coachella, I was like thinking, because I'm going to see Lana Del Rey, which I'm obsessed with. And I was thinking about the one, I forget what magazine it was in, but she did this whole photo shoot with this giant cake. It was like, I don't know, probably like 15 to 20 feet high, and just like so beautiful. And I was thinking like, I've been dreaming of having a huge studio. Like, you've also helped me expand my brain, like what is possible for my own creative practices, and making these giant cakes, like just imagining them in mansions. Like, I love when I used to sell art at the gallery, um, I would Google people's homes because you can see on Zillow what it looks like inside. And like going back to that sometimes and imagining the art that I imagine in my head that I'm going to be creating in these homes is like such a wonderful feeling. And so I'm really just like, it's crazy too how I've been waking up so early and like staying up to paint even while I'm have all my other work to do. And it's like I'll work like a 12 to 14-hour day, but I don't feel like I feel energized by it. Do you have that same experience with your art sometimes where you're just like time like doesn't exist in the same way it usually does?
Yeah, I do definitely. No, I've been really experiencing that recently, especially because my studio is quite private. It's like cordoned off from the rest of this big warehouse where I work because marble carving is so dusty. So I've created this like dust box to contain the mess and the craziness. And at first, I found it to be pretty claustrophobic, but I've gotten quite used to it. And so it's kind of like a little cave now. And I just go in there and like hours pass. And it's been really nice to kind of lose myself in that space. Yeah,
I have a question for you as that was coming up, because I was thinking like, when you're making art, do you listen to music or podcasts or in silence? That question first. And then as you're doing that, I'm kind of curious which one you do more often. And then as you're doing that, what do you think about when you're making art?
I listen to music and podcasts. I'm a big podcast lover. Shock. Um, yeah, no, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of really strange podcasts. Like recently I've been listening to this podcast called Empire, which is just about the history of like imperial empires. The Russian Empire was a really interesting listen. And then now I've been listening to this one about the Persian Empire, which has been really crazy. Highly recommend for anyone who's looking to kill like 30 hours. um, I like that one because it's really long format. I also listen to music a lot, and I've been finding that it's important to me not to listen to the same music that I listen to in the studio when I'm at home, because it kind of has this like strange studio association with it now and like this work association. So I've started to make more playlists for when I'm in the studio. Um, and then when I'm home, like, going a bit more on like discover and finding new stuff to listen to, and then like determining whether or not that's like studio music or chill home music or cooking music or whatever. So yeah, I really like listening to something because also marble carving is really loud. So I listen to like I have my AirPods and then I have my ear protection on top, which is kind of like headphones, but they're just padding. So
And you can hear through that. You can hear the podcast through the carving.
mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. The ear protection is quite good. And then I have my AirPods inside, but I can't hear the outside world at all. So
Yeah.
sometimes people come up and try to talk to me, and I completely miss them. So
Yeah. So while listening to music, I would say, what do you think about? Like what, just as you, if you were to reflect on, is there any certain thoughts that you think a lot?
well, the other thing about the practice that I have right now in marble is that there's so many different phases to it. There's like the beginning phase, which is like when you're first working with like a raw block, and you have to be pretty intentional about the marks that you're making. I don't I still kind of use a painting vocabulary, but like the marks that you're making on the block are really significant because then that's going to like dictate the rest of the piece. And so during that moment, I'm pretty focused on, really studying the block itself and looking at like what are the natural fissures within the material, or looking at like how can this material like guide the form that I have in my mind, and how can I really think of this process through the lens of drawing, which I found to be like really helpful. Otherwise you kind of just like get overwhelmed with that same kind of like blank canvas issue where you're like, I don't know where to start on this blank canvas, it's so perfect. And it's kind of the same with marble. So I've had this drawing like approach where I really think about like making decisive marks in the stone, or chipping and removing decisive pieces of material that will then like guide the rest of the piece. um and then there's like a lot of passive carving where you're just like trying to remove material, or you're trying to like create a rounded surface, or you're adding like texture or something. And then there's like sanding, which is like the most passive, where you can like truly be paying attention to something completely other than the piece, because you have to sand for so many hours. Like today I sanded for like 4 hours. And I was just like thinking about this podcast and like other work that I had going on, and like thinking about other stuff. So it's like pretty passive. That's that part. And so I try to like, if I always am working on multiple pieces at once. So I try to like make sure that I'm in the right mood, because I found that if I'm in like kind of a tired mood and I have to make like big changes on a piece, or if I'm like just starting a piece, I can really almost like make a mistake in my eyes, and then find it really hard to like reel that back or like course correct. So I'm trying to like adapt the practice to also my mood.
Yeah, I get that because sometimes when I'm working on things and there's like this middle stage where it can go in different directions and then you're like, oh shoot. It oh my God, did I just ruin it? And I get so emotional. Like I throw a fit. I and my best friend knows this because she's my Lindsay, shouting out Lindsay. She is my like art director. She has helped me with my cakes. She helps me with my colors. Like I send everything to her to get her feedback because she's so good with color. She's an abstract artist and she also has a bracelet beading company. It's called Aura Sugar. And she just is so good with color. And so she knows my fits when I freak out and I'm like, I ruined it. Oh my God. And she's like, calm down. You haven't ruined it. But the highs and lows, because the other day, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I posted something on Instagram about this too. Because I just, while I was painting, I was like, I yelled out, no one's in my house. I yell out, oh my God, this is so fun. And I was like, who am I right now? You know, the highs and lows of the art making process and like how enjoyable it can be, but also like sometimes you do have to be in a certain state when there's decisions that need to be made, you know? Just like if you're putting yourself out in the world and you have to make a decision about, you know, so like what's it like painting your house or like getting furniture. Like you want to be in the right headspace to make those decisions because if you're not, you're going to choose something that like doesn't work out and then you have to fix it later. So that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, I've been thinking a bit about the kind of like obsessive quality of like making. And I have never spent this much time in the studio since like I'm not even in art school did I work this much on work because I was like, you know, a student wanting to have fun. Um, but I'm actually in the studio every single day for so many hours, and it's become so obsessive. That like parts of it are quite meditative as well, and then other parts are like quite horrible. Um, but yeah, I guess, you know, it's so true. It is like this kind of highs and lows and roller coaster, and it is very fun though. You know, so
Mhm.
I'm really grateful for that. But
Yeah, it's quite the ride. But it's cool too to think about how your art making process is it's, you know, you're taking a chunk of marble and turning it into something where, yeah, I'm taking like a blank canvas and turning it into something. But in my practice, like I am very like I'll explain it. So I create something, I basically trace something on Procreate and then I adjust it and add to it so it's a unique piece. So I'll take a picture and then I change it, I update it, I move it around, and then I add the color and then I print it. So then I make a background on my canvas and I like pastel colors, so usually it's like some rainbow pastel type of thing. And then I print the size of the cake that I want, and I'll use transfer paper and I trace over that to make the cake. And then I fill it in as if like a color by numbers type of thing. So it's a very like Virgo process. And
yeah.
it's, you know, there's no like I'm looking at my cake right now because it's like perfect. You know, like I don't want anything to be out of place. And like the way it's shaded, like I want it to just be like very, everything's in its place.
Mm. I can see your like illustration background as well with that process and like the design element. It's like really clear. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun though. It's like definitely has been something in the past couple of months that has been unlocked with um what I've been leaning into lately with my belief systems of that things can happen, things can manifest in my life easily. And with my business, with my relationships, like allowing myself to do the things that I desire and I'm afraid of. So there's kind of like a little connection there that I know I need to challenge myself to do things that I desire and that I'm afraid of. And by doing that, there can be these really easy manifestations that come through. And with my clients, like I've been leaning into, I can just show up, go out in the world and be me, and clients will be attracted to that and want to work with me. And it's happened 3 times now in the past month, which is I'm like, this is so easy. Like before I was like, oh, I have to do all this hard work. I have to do all these things. And like, I'm really leaning into that belief and believing it to see it. And now I'm believing it so strongly and reinforcing that now I'm seeing it and I believe it even more.
Congratulations. That's so awesome.
Thanks. And I think the same thing with art too. It's like, okay, if I'm for my art, because I do want to sell art as well, and I haven't really figured out what that looks like. But if I was to just love my art and know that someone else out there loves it as much as I do, I could just go out in the world, meet people, show them what I do, and naturally what I want will occur, which is to sell it. Easy as that.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I think that idea of like both, I guess, like in your practice and in like your approach to like your professional development, like walking yourself towards that fear is so daunting, but it's also so exciting. And I've been thinking about that a lot as well. And just how like after the first few times you do it, it just becomes pretty natural. It becomes, you kind of get over that initial like fear, and
Yeah.
like a good entropy kind of takes place.
Yeah, because is it fear or is it excitement?
Mm, yeah.
And I've been also playing around with the idea of like, is it, are you happy or are you sad? Are those tears
Mm,
of joy or those tears of sadness? Because really, it's so similar. Because when I'm a very emotional person, and when I do my journaling and stuff, and like I've been through some really difficult things in my life have been that have shook me to my core, that have been very scary for my nervous system as a sensitive person. Like it brings up emotion right now, even thinking about it. And it's like, as I journal, sometimes I think, okay, this feeling is so similar to the feeling of like, I am in so much gratitude right now. I'm so appreciative. And like, I can't believe this happened to me. Like, wow. And there's a Casey Musgraves song. I don't know if you know who that is, but she says happy and sad at the same time. That lyric just, it it's so interesting the how similar those feelings are.
yeah. I've been feeling that in my work. Like in in one moment, I'll be so disappointed in like my past self's like process of a piece, and then realize that that's actually like an opportunity to like take it in a different direction or to like experiment with something new, and then within like a few minutes like transform it, and then be like so happy that I was able to do that, and like just be so grateful for that, and recognize that like that gratitude and that process would not have happened if there wasn't like that low moment as well. And so yeah, I think recognizing that balance and push and pull of things is just really important, and also recognizing that like everything is temporary, like nothing is a static state. And I think that what you were saying earlier about like manifesting and that kind of easy manifesting is something I'd like to start working on like on a daily basis more, because it's very powerful, and you're the one who's really introduced me to that kind of work, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, I've been listening to YouTube videos of it's this woman Esther Hicks, but she channels Abraham. I think it's called Abraham Hicks, but she refers to them as they. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm getting it right, but she channels these entities, and it's very much about this vortex, right? Like this vortex of co-creation, and how when you focus on the vibration, it's all about vibration and the energy of like having it already, and gratitude and appreciation and awe and being there. And that's how you manifest things into your life, instead of focusing on what you don't want. But the interesting thing is that when that what you don't want happens, it's actually really great, because with clarity, like when it's powerful and frustrating, you get a lot of clarity out of that. You're like, oh, this is definitely what I don't want. It's like eating something and you're like, oh, that's not for me. And then you can go to what you do want. And it's actually helpful. But what they say is that you don't need that. There's a term that they use, I forget what it's called. It's like, you don't need the negative things to happen. You can actually stay in that beauty and the joy and the awe. But that friction is helpful for most people to see what they don't want and to really get clarity. And so it's okay, you know? But yeah, I've been listening to them. And then I also listen to the Gaia podcast, which is way out there. It's the Gaia Consciousness podcast. They talk about some weird, weird stuff on that podcast. Aliens, angels, you know, different kind of where you go when you sleep, and the different dimensions. I mean, I love things that are way out there like that. It just expands my consciousness.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think I personally have been finding it to be so cool to be able to get access to so many strange areas of thought via podcasting over the past few years. And that's really like why I wanted to contribute to the podcasting pool of craziness. And I'm so glad to be able to be doing it with you, Lauren, now. So I was wondering if perhaps, maybe you could give us like a few, maybe like mini threads or something to start a manifestation that maybe artists listening to the pod right now are wanting to do, but like unsure of how to start. And if you could just like give us a way to, maybe start thinking about that, or a prompt or something.
Yeah. So I guess a manifestation, first, to describe what that is, right? It could be like a goal or a desire of yours. So maybe it's like selling a painting. You want that to be a manifestation. Or creating a relationship, like a partnership, a romantic partnership. That could be a manifestation. So it's kind of like, we already know there are people that subscribe to like, oh, you have to write it all down, like specifically, what do you want? And I actually do that with my clients, is like, we get really clear, but you don't necessarily need to do that, because it's a vibration. What I was talking about before, the contrast, that's the word they use. The contrast of, you already know vibrationally what you want and what you don't want on an intuitive, energetic level, and allowing the universe to surprise you with things that could even be better than what you would write on paper. So like, that's also and that's kind of farther along than what you just asked me, but I did want to share that. So as far as, you can get specific on paper if you want to do it that way, just like imagining. And I've heard two people in the past week that actually sat down and wrote a story about what they wanted their manifestation to be like, as if it had already happened. And both of them are writers, like they love writing. So that was something that was so great for them, because in doing that, and this is what you can do in your journal too, is like getting into that vibration of imagining it as your reality already and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how easy it was. Like, I went shopping because I was like really excited to go out shopping this one day to this thrift store. And at the thrift store, there was this person who was working, and we started this conversation, and one thing led to another, and they invited me to this party, and then I met this person there that just changed my life forever, and like going into the details and just imagining it and feeling into that vibration. So that's kind of like a tool that you can use to create what you want, but also allowing yourself to, as you're imagining that, feeling the vibration, knowing that you can spontaneously feel that vibration as well anytime throughout the day. So opening up to the awareness that, like, oh, maybe I can just take a walk and that feeling will come over me, and allowing it to come over you instead of pushing it away. Because a lot of times, like, that was how I grew up. I was like, oh no, I don't, this is an overwhelming feeling. Like, I don't know if I deserve this. And it's like, no, allow the feeling to come over you and be in it. Like, allow it to be there and feel it, because that is just like the beauty of being in this reality. Like, where else can you find that? Maybe you go outside and you look at the tree and the wind kind of flowing in the tree, and you're like, oh, you know like, more moments like that will bring to you what you desire.
That's awesome. And I feel like that's such a awesome thing to think about, especially if you're like maybe at like a turning point, or like maybe you're feeling stuck in your work or something, or like uninspired, or you have writer's block or something. I feel like that's really like such an expansive way of like bringing that like energy back into yourself, and like creating that like energetic vibration, um, that like you can continue to create. I definitely needed to hear that today. I'm working on finishing a piece, and I was feeling a little deflated today when I left the studio about the progress. But I think just even picturing that tree and that energy is like really awesome, really helpful. So thanks for guiding us
Yeah,
through that.
thanks. And it's not to negate the friction feeling, right? Like, the contrast. That's okay. It's like allowing yourself to go into that too, to fully be with that too, because it's meaningful, right? Like, it does have meaning, and it's like allowing it to be there, and knowing at the same time that once you go into that more, like starting to write down, like imagining what you do want, and shifting into like the awe and the pleasure, like that can be like a snowball effect. Once you get started, like just right now with us, you're like, oh, it is possible, it is available. Once you get started, it can be this snowball effect, and it can just grow. So that's what's amazing about that. But the same, it's like you also, those other feelings are there for a reason too, and they have to be acknowledged. Yeah. With that, something that, we were discussing earlier too, allowing ease of this podcast and the community. Something that I think I would personally love as well is just connecting with people on a more one-on-one basis as well, that are listening to this podcast and hearing from you. And you know, you were sharing having more people on the podcast too, and maybe there's someone out there that really wants to get their work out there and have it be easy and have it be fun and step through that fear of getting interviewed. Maybe it's for the first time, maybe it's for the 100th time, But that would be so cool to, any of you who want to come on the podcast, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, please. So many of the guests who have joined us on the season already, we discovered them by having them reach out to us without, any previous contact, just like really random. So we love that. We would absolutely love to hear from you. So if you're interested and want to get in touch, you can, of course, reach us on our social media at Artist Podcast on Instagram. But also, if you want to write to us more long form, feel free to email listen@artistpodcast.com. And yeah, we're really excited about meeting and connecting. And Lauryn and I met online, and I really believe in online connection, online friendships, and it's been a huge part of my professional journey as well. So don't hesitate.
Yeah. And good luck with your manifestations. Let them flow to you easy this week. Allow yourself to enjoy what you already have and know that so much more is possible just by enjoying what you already have.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Lauryn, and thank you for listening. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for being here. When you have a moment, please leave us a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And email us at listen@artistpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. Our music is by Black Wonder Twins. And now, a final message from Lauryn.
Hey, it's your creative career coach, Lauryn Hill. If you're ready to find more fulfillment and purpose in your life and make money doing work you love, I want to invite you to sign up for a free coaching consultation. In this 60-minute assessment, we'll talk about where you're currently at in your career and creative life. We'll get clear on where you want to go and what your vision is, and then we'll figure out what's getting in the way of you making it happen. After this intake process, I'll share with you solutions, what it would look like for us to work together, and how one-on-one coaching can help you create the results that you desire, but you have been struggling to create on your own. And if you feel like you're not quite clear on your goals yet or don't really understand what coaching is, that's okay. Don't let it stop you from signing up for a consultation. I guarantee that you'll leave the consultation with more clarity on your goals and a better understanding of the profound impact that coaching can have on the rest of your life and career. So head over to curatedSplash.com/start-now. That's curatedSplash.com/start-now and click the free strategy consultation button to sign up now. Hope to hear from you soon.